the Mayo Jam, featuring Sunday Fireside Series.
Hello everyone, my name is Vinati Dev, batch of 1994, Sayogita House. I also served as the president of the Alumni Association. And while we were serving, the team came up with the idea of Fireside Series to inspire, support, and guide each other's personal and professional journeys. We figured that if something the alumni said struck a chord, encouraged or informed current students, or even each other, that we were going to be home. The word impact can actually be very overwhelming. But when you break it down, it comes down to just touching a single life, igniting a single mind. And it begins to feel very doable. Yes, your story can change someone's perspective. It can nudge them to continue to do what they have stopped doing. It can encourage them to pursue their dreams like you did. It can give them hope. It can give them direction. These are your stories. These are our stories. So watch and listen to another episode of Fireside Series.
Hi, I'm Juhi Singh, batch of 2004. I'm a member of the Executive Committee, MCGS Alumni Association, and this is my third term. COVID made us take Igniting Minds digital. Here I would like to introduce the panel for the first Fireside series, Storytellers and Image Makers. We have Neha Mehra, batch of 1999, who is a filmmaker, Divya Cowasji, batch of 2005, who is a photographer and documentary filmmaker, and Juhi Singh, batch of 2002, filmmaker and media production professional, who will be moderating this session. We were unable to record the beginning of the talk. We will start with Neha Mehra answering the question, recurring challenges as a filmmaker.
The recurring challenges you have is there are long periods and chunks of time where you don't have work. So to kind of get up and keep yourself motivated, whether that's by watching something new or by, doing an online course on just enhancing your skill. Because like Divya, even I'm a big technophobe. I just know how to cut. If anybody's like, make it jazzy, make it this, I'm like, give me music, I'll cut it to the music. Like even to put a dissolve is a no for me. I believe in straight, simple storytelling. So that's the kind of niche and that's the kind of market I've created for myself, is that even if it's an ad film, if there is a story and not just beauty shots, then I'm the person to come to for that.
I've seen some of your work, and yes, you've described it beautifully.
Thank you so much, that's really kind. But so the challenge is to keep yourself motivated on those off days, whether it's reading a book and visualizing it, or just, keeping your toes wet. And just, because I've been fortunate enough to never really have to worry about the money part of it. But even then, to call yourself a professional and call yourself an editor or a filmmaker, there are huge chunks of time that you're not doing anything. So to justify it to yourself and to make sure that you're still getting some value out of it. So right. I think that's one recurring challenge that I've definitely had to overcome.
Divya, is there something you'd like to add here?
Yeah, I think absolutely that is one of the main challenges of a freelancer. And I think also it takes a certain sort of disposition to be able to be a freelancer, and that you do have chunks of time and you're extremely busy. You have long periods of time and there's nothing, and you need to learn to be okay with that. But also, I find the challenge that a lot of freelancers face is a lot of people who go into work independently go into that because they want to make meaningful work. But the hustle to pay your rent, to earn a living is very real. So a lot of times people get subsumed into, okay, I'm doing commercial work for money, I'm doing XYZ for money, but somehow you find yourself not having time to do anything else, to do the work you really came into this for. So balancing that. The other part I find very challenging as a freelancer is the money aspect of it. I feel like a lot of people, especially women for some reason, have been sort of told it's not good manners to talk about money. And the thing is, especially in this field, you have to know your own worth, and you have to know, your own value to be able to ask for it. So I really feel like I really encourage friends to talk to each other about how much they earn, or, talk to your peers, seek out advice. So because it's something you have to set for yourself in this sort of field, which is, I think, really.
Yeah, I just
I've asked this a lot Sorry.
Yeah, I just like to add to what Divya said about, a lot of us start this freelance thing because when you're in a job and you're an editor, you're a technician, you have no say on the work that you do, right? Like if a corporate comes, you've got to do the corporate. If a documentary comes, you do the documentary. If National Geographic happens, it happens, So there is absolutely no, and then they own you and they own your time and they own every aspect of it. So you think you're going to get a lot of freedom and you're going to really do what you got into this field to do, but like she said, it's a trap because there are so many restrictions and there's so many hidden pressures that come into play. So balancing that, like she said, is very, very critical, and also something that just comes with experience and time.
Yeah.
And also what Divya said about like knowing your worth and being able to ask for it. I've noticed that the thing about it is that pricing of any kind of work that we do is so arbitrary that
Exactly.
there is no real market rate, right? Sometimes when you really love a subject, you do it for really less money. Whereas if you're doing something just because a project's come your way and you need to earn at that point, you could end up, pricing yourself so much higher. So I have seen this a lot as a real struggle, and honestly have no answer to how we can kind of battle this or do it better together. I don't know. But yes, I think a good way would be to talk to your peers and your friends and see what they're charging per kind of work that they do. Yep. Okay. I'd like to speak about just gender disparity because Divya brought it up in her last answer. Um, so I started working in 2005, and I've essentially been in mainstream entertainment right through. I've seen that the gender inequality has kind of dissipated over the years. Do you feel that too? Has it been similar in your experiences? When I started out, it was absolutely unknown to have a woman, shooting or even directing at that point. But now, most large sets, and here I'm talking about producers, a lot of them, women are running the sets, a lot of women are shooting, and they're everywhere. Earlier, you were told that, choose styling. It's one much more, you'll succeed much more easily as a woman over there. Have you guys seen this, and what has it been in your experience?
Yeah. So in the Film Institute, we did have, but like you're saying, like there were 2 for every 6 directors, 2 women for every 6. Editing is the only place where women were in majority. There were 6 women editors and 2 male, because traditionally editing has been considered a woman's job because you cut and you stitch the film back in the day. So it was kind of given over to the women. The bigger change that I'm seeing, yes, there are definitely more women on sets and visible, and now some women directors are coming up, and it's exciting to see. But what excites me more is the change in the stories. Now, you would have one Rekha starrer back in the day that would be about a woman and a woman central character, but now there are more and more voices coming up. So that narrative changing, the story changing, the actors not agreeing to just be an item number in the back, that change for me is more drastic because it's what we see and what we consume. Nobody really knows what's happening behind the scenes. It's what is being told in the form of a story. It's how the women are perceived on screen. And seeing that change, seeing stories like Queen and Thappad and, that are coming out and they are huge successes. That is the change that I'm excited about. And that's the part that I'm looking forward to. The change in the narrative and how women are shown.
Yeah, I think our industry picks up a trend and takes it forward beautifully. So Queen started this, I think, a few years ago. It was one of the first films about women that succeeded the way that it did. And yeah, I mean, I totally agree with all of the stuff that you're saying. The story is about women. I think it also makes them much more exciting. Yeah. What about you, Divya?
I agree to a certain extent that, like Neha said, for certain types of jobs, you're seeing more women, but like things like directors of photography or cinematography is still considered very much a man's domain. And I can literally count on one finger how many female cinematographers or DPs I know working at a professional level. I leave like what's going on in the industry to the two of you because I'm a bit on the fringe of it. I work mostly only independently. And from my experience, it's also it's very client to client based. I recently made a film for the Indian Army, and that was one space in which I felt that they didn't know how to deal with a woman being in a leadership role. I didn't get looked in the eye a lot. My friend, my assistant, I was clearly in charge, but all questions would be directed to him. So that there are constant struggles like that. But speaking a little bit aside from gender bias, as a photographer, all I really want to do is get into a car with all my equipment and drive around the country on my own making photographs. I try that close to my home. I spend the day just 2-3 hours away, and my family and loved ones have a nervous breakdown thinking that I'm all alone, on the road by myself. I love photographing abandoned spaces, old dilapidated places. And in the front of my mind, I'm always a woman first and a photographer later because I'm always looking out for my safety first. So I mean, there's things change at different levels and at different speeds, and there's still so much, so much for gender, parity to actually take place and for people to feel absolutely safe and comfortable in the environments they're in. So I think a lot of work still does need to be done and all that.
Yeah, but to Divya's point, that is a more social and a general construct, but on film sets and, behind the scenes and productions and all, I think things have changed. And I do see hope on the horizon. And I'm hoping that these trends are not just trends and that they last. And then the way we consume any story or the way we consume cinema and the way we portray the women especially, kind of changes. But yeah, safety is a whole other conversation. And I think that's at a macro, general, social level, not just for filmmakers. I think no matter what you do in life as a woman, you will always remember, or have to remember in India at least, that you're a woman first. And then you got to keep yourself safe. So that's a long way off, unfortunately.
Okay. We'll move on from this subject because I think it's also something that's really vast and we can go on talking about it. The roles have changed definitely, but the industry in its shape is also changing quite rapidly. Earlier films were made for a certain screen. It was made for a theater or at least the television. And now a lot of the stuff, the content that's being created it's for your phone, so that the watcher can consume it wherever they are. How has this affected you? How has this affected the work that's coming your way? What has your role changed in what you do to adapt to this change? What has this been like for you? Neha, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So the first two questions that we always ask as an editor is, what are you going to show this film on? And who is your target audience, right? You have to know, because that then decides your point of view. If it's a woman that you're speaking to, or a man that you're speaking to, or adolescents that you're speaking to, or children. And then based on that, how do you grab eyeballs? And if you're cutting for YouTube, your first second is the most important, right? So for that, then again, you have to take your best visual, your most dramatic, your biggest punch to keep the viewer engaged. if you're doing something for television and you know that, for those 30 seconds, the viewer is yours, then you play it out differently and you can. So these are the first two questions we always ask. What is where are they going to be viewing it, and who are you talking to essentially? Like, who is the basic target audience? So a lot depends on those two things. Recently now in the lockdown, I edited 4 ads for Facebook. So now nobody could move. So the iPhone was sent to the character's house and they just placed it wherever, and there was a person on a Zoom call and they kind of directed it via remote. So now what happens is that everything becomes post-production's problem. We'll fix it or we'll see in the edit, right? Because there's only one shot. They took 70 or 80 takes with the camera in one static position, and then I have to cut it to a 30-second ad, right? So you have to now look at the light jumps, you have to look at the takes, you have to take the best moments, and then you put everything together, and then the director's like, it's not working, you can do better. And you're like, the same performance that you're not liking right now, I could hear you on the Zoom call and you were like, it's great, like pump it up, and now you're fixing everything. So anyway, post is, the kind of little bit of a stepchild, because when you're there on location, there are 100 things that go wrong. And on the back of your head, you're like, okay, we'll just figure it out on the edit. And then, the editor is stuck and has to kind of manage all of that. And so it used to be for documentaries. For fiction, you thought you had it quite easy. But now that's changing as well, because they're shooting fiction like documentary and then still expecting you to create a story for 30 seconds or a minute or whatever. So it'll be interesting. These are interesting times. I think, every big film, every big production has led to some brilliant innovations. Like for Lord of the Rings, they created entire softwares. And so, whether it means that a crew gets quarantined together in some remote location and shoots, or whether it means some new chroma sets come up which you can just arrange in your house, I don't know. But time will tell. But one thing's for sure, that people are not going to stop telling stories. Whatever you throw at them, they are going to find a way. And digital is here to stay. So let's see what innovations and inventions come out of this.
Yeah, some interesting content is already coming out. People are shooting at home. They're hiring actors that are more creators than actors only. They can direct, they can shoot, they can do, multiple things on their own. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see how it really shapes up when, like, I feel like a lot of the methods that are being adopted right now are here to stay, because they're much more easier ways of storytelling than we had 150 people on a set, not really required. I think we'll see that now. So yeah, I mean, Divya, you want to talk about how work changed for you, because the medium is changing so drastically. This is exactly what I asked Neha earlier.
Yeah, so in the last 5 years, what has really changed is the availability of all these platforms to view on. And that has done something very exciting for documentary filmmaking, because the avenues for screening were very slim. It was a handful of film festivals, DD, sometimes a news network picked up your thing, and now the fact that you have that kind of viewership is also pushing the envelope on what it is to make documentary film. It's that, that old state boring formula is not going to work anymore. It needs to be something exciting too. So I think the change in the distribution methods are dictating changes in the medium as well that are very exciting. And like you guys said, I think this is one sector that has not been so badly impacted by what's going on just now, because content is king, and I mean, no one can seem to get enough of it at the moment. From the photography point of view, what I'm finding very exciting right now is that things are becoming a lot more democratic, in that huge museums have opened up their exhibits online. Film festivals are showing all their movies online. There are all these talks. So sitting at home, somehow it's become a lot more egalitarian. And I find that very exciting, that information is not really, it was sort of earlier protected by this mysterious clique, as a new photographer, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what community to tap into. And now that feels like it's coming, it's much more easily accessible, which is great.
Yeah. And what is the COVID time done for the queries that you're getting? Have they slowed down? Are there more inquiries? How have they changed, or how are they similar?
Yeah, no, right now work is pretty much at a standstill. All the projects that were in the pipeline have, but being a freelancer for so many years, I know how to utilize downtime. So I'm using this time to work on a bunch of personal projects. But things are slow right now, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that you guys have spoken about already are amazing tips for people who enter any field of work that requires them to freelance. I hope that they can be recorded somewhere, that we can, help people who want to be freelancers. We have a couple of questions also, and then we can circle back to where we're leaving off. I think this one's, both of you can take it. Sumaya asks, you spoke of a change in the narrative which is getting pro-women. Do you feel somewhere it might end up becoming a commercial trend too?
Well, I'm kind of hoping. I'm hoping, because if you see women as equals on screen, and you see that their story is your story, your mom's story, everybody's story is as important as the next. I'm hoping that it is the narrative and a structure that's here to stay, because we've had these machoist, men-centric, let's beat up the bad guy kind of stories going on for years, and we're told it's because that's what sells in the interiors. But Divya just really beautifully said that there are now so many more platforms, so you're not limited. And I'm hoping that the filmmakers and the scriptwriters and the people out there take note of that and don't limit themselves to just one gender, one type of story, one trend. That this country is so big and it's so beautiful and it's so vast, and that we hear more and more voices out of it.
So I hope that kind of answers. Divya, do you have anything to add to that?
No, just that, I mean, like she said, it shouldn't be seen as a trend anymore. It just needs to become a part of life, because these stories are what life is. It's not, it needs to be part of our everyday. These are not special. I mean, women are as much, make fantastic cinema and as interesting subjects as men. So, yeah.
And we're definitely more visual. That's my personal opinion.
I agree. Sumaya has another question as well. And she says, a lot of propaganda is seeping into cinema now. Any comments on this?
To be honest, I don't think it's now. I think propaganda has always been there. I think a filmmaker makes a film because they have something to say, which is why you had the art cinema of the 70s, which was liberal and artsy, and then you had the mainstream cinema, which was all machoistic and beat the bad guy. And, So I think films are made because those people have that opinion or that thing that they want to say and show. So I don't think it's a new thing. I think it's always been kind of part of the fabric, and it's also somewhere been a filmmaker's responsibility, unsaid or clearly stated, I don't know, to kind of wake society up and to show them different aspects, or to give voice to the voiceless. So you've had these parallel movements, and then you've had the mainstream movements as well. So I don't think it's something new. Maybe we're just noticing it now more.
Picking up from where Neha left off, like it or not, I think filmmaking is the art form of our generation. It seems to have captured everyone's imagination in a way that, on a scale that nothing else has, at least. I think it's very important as a filmmaker, content creator, storyteller, to know that the moment I have a camera in my hand and I'm making a story on you, I am inherently in a position of power over you. And I think filmmakers, or everyone, all storytellers need to start taking that responsibility to be ethical filmmakers much more. Even if you are talking about political topics, there is and of course, every filmmaker has their own bias, has their own subjectivity. But to still be able to approach a subject with a certain degree of respect and sensitivity, I think that is something that film school should really inculcate more than the meat and bones of how to make a film. It's how to be an ethical filmmaker and storyteller.
That's really beautifully put. Yeah, because our opinions just kind of overtake whatever we're trying to show in the content that we make. Okay. I'd like to touch upon like how would you give me a sec to articulate this. If you were to advise somebody in school at the moment who's likely to make this career choice, what would be like an ideal thing that they should be studying, or how can they go about this in a organized fashion? Because I arrived here after there was no organized way to do it. I studied journalism, then I did moving image, and I've been in AD. I've been on a set as a production person. That's what I did for the chunk of my career. And now I'm a cast now, and these are just like, it's my journey that's sort of taken me through this. I wish at some point there was an organized way to have arrived at this. Is there an answer to this, or it's just like?
Well, I think that's kind of the exciting bit about it. Like I decided I want to be a filmmaker. I interned in a sports thing where I didn't know anybody besides Kapil Dev and Sachin Tendulkar. So I had a friend in the week and this is back when we were on tapes, guys, like, beta cut to cut. And I would call him every 2 minutes and be like, who's that? And he'd kind of tell me the names. And everything is learning and everything is a part of it. And from there, I became an assistant director and we traveled all over Southeast Asia. And then I joined NDTV and I was in production and we had crazy call times and we were working 24/7, rolling out news, and in all of that, I found my passion for editing. And I feel that the chaos is the exciting part of it, to kind of see it all and then say that this part is made for me, or this is what I'd like to pursue. And then within that, like so many of my editor friends, some of them have gone into direction. One is in clay animation. The other person's become, a graphics person. So I'm one of the few people that stuck to editing from the Film Institute. So I think it's part of it, Divya, Juhi, and I think it's exciting and it's, if you want to be organized about it, intern as much, see as many aspects, and then maybe while you're still young and you're still kind of, seeing it from those eyes, you'll find what it is that is calling to you. But at any point, it's okay to change, and at any point, it's okay to give it up and start it again. Because at the end of the day, all you're doing is telling stories. And there's no age for that.
I've done it thrice over. I couldn't agree with you more. Divya?
Yeah, I agree with Neha. The madness is the method. I mean, there's so many different ways to get to one place, and nothing you do or learn along the way can possibly be lost. So and I think, yeah, like she said, intern a lot. I had such a long list of things I knew I didn't want to do before I figured what it is I do want to do. And that also really helps. Like,
yeah,
don't be afraid to pursue any sort of avenues. I do feel like if you are interested in filmmaking and storytelling, it's also important to immerse yourselves in other things and have knowledge about a lot of other subjects, because at the end of the day, you have to be a knowledgeable, well-informed storyteller. And now, like filmmaking, like you said, you can do it on a cell phone. So things have become so egalitarian in that way that more than schools that just focus on, the how-tos of this technique and this technology. Like, I feel like just doing stuff that gives you life experience and And your journey like sounds so exciting, Juhi, having done all those things. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for just arriving
I
at the
wouldn't
point.
trade any of it. I mean, like, yeah, I won't say I hated college. I bunked a lot of it. I made some amazing friends there, so I won't trade that bit. Yeah, I mean, I literally did learn everything on the jobs that I've done. None of it came from a formal training in any aspect of filmmaking, but the course that I did do allowed me to decide that this is where I want to be. Mehra, give me 10 minutes to finish, love. Mother duties. Sorry, Mehra. Please go to Nana.
Yeah, so just to touch upon that, what a film school or a formal education in filmmaking, storytelling does for you, it creates a network. You have your batchmates.
Yeah.
You know, you can always pick up the phone and say, whatever, I'll assist you, but I need work right now. I need money right now. So it's that. For me, I had no idea there was a world of world cinema. Right? I grew up on Govinda and Neelam, and I loved them, and that is and who I was. You know, just
Doggy calling. We have a couple
it's
of
the phone.
questions also. Finish, Neha,
Yeah,
and then
so I'm just saying, so the film school, what it does is it exposes you to different types of cinema, different types of people, different types of, you know, and again, voices. Like for us, we're urban, upper, middle class, rich, privileged, I'm sorry to say, people that have, you know, have our struggles. I'm not taking away from that. But there is a certain thing that we'll never hear. There are certain stories that we'll never know because we'll never be exposed to it. And going to a film school, you are suddenly thrown in the deep end. You have these stories coming up from places and people that otherwise you would not have exposure to, you know. Because even as an editor, you sit in a cushy little editing room and you have one assistant who's probably from Bombay or Delhi and has a similar background in education as you. So that's what film school does. You know, it exposes you to different types of cinema, different voices, and also gives you a basic network to call up. And, you know, they know you, you know them, you know what you're capable of. So.
And that's so important. That network is really important, especially starting out.
Yeah, especially in the freelance world, you know, it's just, I think you go from job to job just relying on the network that you do create. So work in our field really does, you rely very heavily on the network that you create. We have a couple of questions. I'll take them. This is from Ashin Jina. Is there, if there are student initiatives regarding the spread of contemporary filmmaking, would you be interested in reviewing them? Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, Ashin, what you can do is send us where should we head, and we'll make sure that Neha and Divya get them so that you can have their reviews. And Ashin also has another question. He asked, or she asked, I'm not sure. Also, how can we spread this initiative to a higher platform? I think that's a much longer conversation.
We'll talk separately, Ashin, on
Yes, we'll circulate email addresses and try and take those. Parting advice from both of you for people who aspire to be filmmakers. Just quick takeaways from.
Yeah. So my whole experience can be summed up in 2 words, and that is just be honest. You know, be honest to your work, be honest to yourself. And it's okay if somebody is making better films than you, has got more awards than you, or has done more work than you, or is making more money. All of these are benchmarks and parameters that at the end of the day don't really hold much. You know, if you are happy with what you have done and you are true to who you are and what you believe in, then these other facets don't really matter. And again, it's something that doesn't come overnight. It comes with time. You know, there are days that you're terribly jealous of somebody else's really good work and you both had the same platform in the same beginning. And I know, but I'm just saying that these are little traps that we set up for ourselves and fall into because maybe that's how it's been structured. But I know that I got the CCSFA award and I held it, and it was done. Like within 5 minutes, it meant not much, you know. It was about the next project, what you're going to do from there, how you're going to use that to jump off and, you know, build a bigger platform for yourself. So as a freelancer, especially, it's up to you. Get up on time, do your work, be honest, go through the footage, put your best foot forward. Don't cut corners, you know, don't leave it for the editor. And as the editor, watch your footage. So yeah, that would be my parting advice for everything, is just be true to who you are and just be honest.
Okay. Wonderful. Divya? Give us a little...
I see so many kids right now entering the 11th, and even their parents freaking out about what subject should they take, how will it help their future. And I just want to say that it's okay just not to know all of these things right off the bat. As I said before, I had so many varying interests, and without having the slightest inkling, I've landed on something like documentary filmmaking, which allows me to research, it allows me to write, it allows me complete isolation when I want to sit and ideate and edit, when I want to work with a crew. I mean, there are so many different ways, whatever they may be, to blend various interests together. So yeah, be patient with yourselves, be kind, and allow yourself the time and energy to find whatever it is that you're looking for.
I completely second that. I think it's okay to be confused. And I think your college years and your teenage years are for that, for you to kind of find your feet. You know, I mean, we're sitting here, I'm looking back at 20 odd years of experience. So it's easy because it's all done, and I can see the patterns and I can see where I landed, and I'm okay with it, you know. So yeah, just remember all that. Life is long and it's all part of the journey. Yeah. So if you can't see it now, doesn't mean you'll never be able to see it.
So valuable. I completely agree with all of this. And I'd really like to add to kids on just choosing subjects, like just choose the ones that you're sure you can stick with. Because if you choose for anybody else's opinion, you're likely not to be able to stick to them. So yeah, it's really, really valuable. Okay, and before we wind up, I'd like to ask you guys to tell us what you're currently doing. What you're currently doing and where we can watch the stuff that you're making.
Right. So I am currently waiting for another small feature film. The footage has to come. So they were supposed to courier the hard drive, but it's not possible right now. So we're just kind of figuring out logistics behind that. And I just finished 4 ads for Facebook. So if they ever get released, I will share the links with everyone and you guys can watch them. And that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, wonderful. But your answer brought me to another question that I want to ask. Both of you operate and work and get enough work while you're not in the hub of where the content is being created. How does that work out? How does being in Colombo or being in Mao, does it prevent people from reaching out to you to do certain kind of projects, or is it just the same as you would have been in if you were in Delhi or Bombay?
Well, I mean, for me, there is a logistical problem. Like, so the COVID has actually helped, because in any case for the Facebook films, they would have had to upload, and then wherever the editor was, they would have had to download. So that levels the playing field for me. You know, previously I have flown to Bombay, done projects and come back, leaving my son and husband in the, but I have a support structure. My parents or my in-law, somebody will come and take over, and then I can fly to Bombay, do my work and come back. If you are the person that people want to work with, they'll make it work, you know. So you have to make yourself that person, whether it's through your work or you're just being nice to them and, you know, making 100 changes or being accommodating. Whatever your thing is, if you are who they want to work with, they'll find a way. So yeah, and then if you want to do the work, you'll find a way, you know. So it means flying back to Bombay for a couple of meetings and coming back. That's also happened and been done. So you do get, and then we are over here, because again of the Film Institute and the network, I was teaching editing at the Colombo Film and Television Academy. So then that kept me busy for a while. So you have to kind of really keep putting yourself out there and letting people know that you are here and that this is what you do, and meeting and networking, and never stop, like, hello, hi, I'm Neha, I'm an editor. It's pretty much how you go about it.
I think this answers one of the coming up questions, but I'll take it. I'll put it to you guys now. So somebody in the crowd asked how you promote your work as a freelancer. I think what they really mean is, as an independent filmmaker, how do you promote your work? Divya, would you like to take that?
But there are two parts of it. One is how do you get work, and second is how do you then promote the work. So getting work is that like when you work independently, there are two ways to it. One is that people hear of you, and like Neha said, if they want you, they approach you and they make it work. And that is only a slow process through word of mouth, etc. The second is, like, if I know there's a project I really want to do, there's a film I really want to make, then I do all the legwork on my own, and then I approach external agencies for funding. I approach people for grants, etc. And as a documentary filmmaker, one of the, like, something that takes a huge effort out of you is, after the film's made, is then what do you do with it. So getting it out to the right film festivals, the right channels, making sure the right people are talking about it, writing about it. So yeah, again, networks, but it's challenging, again, working in a small town, but I love it because I travel all over the place, shoot the work, gather the work, and then come back quietly to Mao and, work on it. So that setting has sort of been great. And thanks to the amazing network of friends from school, there's always at least a bed to crash on, whichever city you happen to be in, anywhere in the country. So yeah, a lot of travel, but it's really nice.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of a difference when you are a technician and when you are a director and creating content. As a technician, you are kind of always a bit more dependent because you are not really going out and shooting, and you're not really making the scripts. And the editor is also the most likely person to get changed. If a film is not working, you can't reshoot it, you can't do anything, you're not going to change the director. So the first person that gets axed and gets replaced is the editor. So, and that's happened a couple of times when we've been kind of assisting or working, and then they're like, oh, the edit team has to go and we're going to try a new editor, right? So there is a bit more dependence when you are a pure technician and you're not the content creator. So that's another thing that you should just keep in the back of your mind when you are deciding which of these avenues you want to pursue or take a look at.
Cannot tell you how exciting it has been to host both of you on this. Thank you, guys. Any last things for the committee? You guys are doing an outstanding job. It is so nice to hear of these experiences from everybody. I feel especially privileged to have hosted this one because Divya is one of my dearest friends, and I've known Neha also for many years. We're all in the same line of work. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, a big shout out and thanks to everybody who made this happen. And always free and available and happy to help. So please feel free to reach out at any point, anybody, and whatever limited way or whatever way we can help. I mean, I know I'd be more than happy to. And just have a great every day. Don't worry so much about what's gonna happen next.
Yeah, I thank both of you a lot. This has been so nice. And also special shout out to the alumni committee. They are doing such a great job of having revived all of this after so long. The Instagram page flowing with nostalgia. It's really lovely to see, and I hope it carries on for a long time.
Yeah, and I hope we can do an in-person meet really soon too. Those are much more spectacular, but these are really special too. Thank you.
Thank you everyone.
Divya, just want to say we have been supremely happy to have you guys on board finally. Especially Divya, we've been chasing her for a while, but because of work, she's been traveling quite a bit and could not commit to come to Ajmer. And I think Digital Igniting Minds has been the best part of the lockdown for us. to put together, and we look forward to promoting and encouraging many more of our own similarly. So thank you all. Thank you, attendees, for being here. Thank you, guys. It was
Thank you.
great
Thank
learning
you.
about
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks a lot, guys.
This podcast is brought to you by Mayo Girls Alumni Association. If you're a Mayoite and wish to participate, email us on mayocollegegirlsalumni@gmail.com.